While working with JPEGs and other bitmap images in Photoshop can be very creative. Sometimes we need a simplified image for silk screening, for vinyl cutting, for simply coloring objects. So I'm going to show you a few ways of taking a bitmap image, like a JPEG or a PNG, and turning it into an image that you can actually work with. So first thing you want to do is you want to have a clean image that has a clean background and has good contrast, because otherwise it doesn't really work. So I found this image online, and if you have a different image you can cut out the background, so you start it with something like this. So I'm going to show you 3 different ways of figuring out how to turn this into LineArt. So I will take my layer and I will duplicate it by dragging it onto the layers. Okay, and the first way I'm going to show you is just by using threshold only. Okay, so I'm going to use the threshold, and what that means is we have the image, and it's very simple. You go Image, Adjustments, and Threshold right here. So what that does, it breaks things down into shades of gray, and because when we silk screen or can vinyl cut, we can only work with one color at a time. So with the slider, depending on where you put it, you will break it down in just black and white. And depending where you put the slider, you get more or less information. And that's very, very simple and the quickest way. And if you're happy with the result, that works for you, but it might not be as detailed as you want it. But that's the first part, threshold. Another way of working it is called Smart Blur. So it's called a Smart Blur. And so what we're going to do with this one, we're going to take the layer, we're going to go Filter, Blur, Smart Blur, go into the Smart Blur options, and it will give us a dialog. And I'm just going to move it so I see this corner of the car here, and I can zoom out a little bit too if I want to see more. So I could make that a little smaller so I can see what the whole car would look like. Now, based on the radius, I get more or less detail. And my quality, I want to do edge only down here. And there's other modes. Normal mode would not really do what you need to do. So we want to do edge only. Quality, I'm going to go to high quality. And I'm going to play with the threshold in here and the radius in here. And the reason you might want to zoom in detailed is so you can see what actually happens here. So as I go and get more radius, I get more information, and with the threshold, I can, I guess, remove or add what I want. So you have to sort of figure out what you think is the amount of detail that you want. So your image still works, but it's simple enough to work with. So I'm going to leave it at about this level here. And now I'm going OK, but it's really the wrong way around. So I'm going to go Image, Adjustments, and Invert. So it's back to a positive image. So it's not bad, but you could go a little bit further. So we're going to go Filter, Artistic, and we're going to go into Cutout. Here we go. Filter, Artistic, Cutout. All right. So this is a little too large. I have to move this down so you can see what's going on here. So we have the image, and we have dialog boxes here. So by playing with the edge simplicity, I can play around with, again, the way the image is going to look and the quality of it. So each time you choose a slider, you have to give it a bit of time to calculate, so you can figure out where you're happy with the results. So if you like the results, then you can say OK. So now you're back to your image in here, and the last thing you want to do is apply the threshold that we did with the first exercise. So Image, Adjustment, and Threshold. So again, same thing, you're going to find where that is, but you can see you're getting a much cleaner image already by using this mode. So I'm going to say OK to that one. And there's one other way, and that is called Find Edges. So Find Edges. So if we go Find Edges, we go to Filter, Stylize, Find Edges. Alright, so that did a pretty good job right there. And that's the first step. And then again, we want to go to Filter and Sketch and Photocopy. This allows us to play around again like before with some detail and the darkness, so we can see just how much information we want to get in here. Right, so we can go with a little darkness right there. So again, if we like the image, we say OK, and we're back in here. And again, last step is image adjustments threshold. And there we go. And that's probably our cleanest image so far. So we have fine edges, smart blur, and the basic threshold. So 3 different ways in Photoshop. Now once you have one of these, let's say one of these here, you can then take this into Illustrator. So now I've opened this in Illustrator and I'm going to work with it here. Just for a comparison, if we were to open that original image in Illustrator and click on Live Trace, we are getting a very, very simple image. And even though you can play with different modes in here, you can simplify, and that works for some things, but none of the results are as detailed as what we got with the other one. Even though we have a threshold here, it just doesn't give us quite the amount of choices, right? This will be 16 colors, which is too much. We can bump down the number of colors, and you can see that eventually the image sort of loses a lot of its detail. So hard to work with. So going back to the LineArt one that we open up from the Photoshop file, so I can just open that up in Illustrator. And once I have this file, you notice there's a button up here that says Live Trace. So I'm going to click on Live Trace, and now it's traced that. And now I can play around with my settings here, and I'm going to go to Inked Drawing, because in this case that's going to give me nice smooth lines. And I want to color this in now, so because I want some different colors. So I'm going to click on Live Paint and choose the Live Paint Bucket tool, which is over on the side here underneath the Shape Builder tool. So now I can go to my colors palette, and I'm going to pick a blue, and I'm going to color in some parts. So you can see how the parts that light up allow you to put color in them. So I'm going to add color to a few places in this car, where, let's see, I'm going to put it up here as well. Now, if you notice that some areas aren't working, you can click on this little button here next to the expand, and you can turn on gap detection, and you can make that large gaps. What that does is if your sketch is not quite closed, it will close those areas so you can color them in. So I've got some blue in here, and I'm going to add some pink as well. Make this Google car look really bright. Okay, so I've got the parts that I want to color in here. So now right now I have an image that's made up of 3 different colors, but they're all mixed together. So if I look at my layers palette here, they're all in one layer. Now what we're going to do is we want to separate this so that we could cut it out separately with the vinyl cutter or with silk screening. So we're going to click on the expand button, so now it becomes separate objects. I'm going to click off so that I have, this is still a group, so I have to right click and ungroup it. Click off it so I can select one piece by itself. And I'm looking at this blue. I'm not sure what I've got selected here. I'm going to click on, I'm going to ungroup this one more time. Now I can get just this blue part, and I go select, same, fill and stroke. So now I've got all the blue pieces selected. I can go edit cut. So now they're taken out. And I'm going to make a new layer next to the garbage can, and I'm going to go edit, paste in place. Now I've got my blue on a separate layer that I can toggle on and off, and I'm going to go back to my other layer. I'm going to pick something of the pink, do the same thing, select, same, fill and stroke. Now I've got all my pink pieces selected. I go select, same, I've got that, so edit cut. I'm going to cut that, make a new layer, and go edit, paste in place. So now I have my pink on a separate layer as well, and what is black left on the 3rd layer. Now this is ready for creating silk screening or vinyl